This is Pepe's taco truck. It's closed for business today, but that didn't keep customers from showing up by the dozens, bringing their lunch money in $1 bills as a donation.
Here, I'll take it.
The Sanchez Serrano family fed this community out of the truck over the last decade, but now they've fallen on hard times. The father has a serious illness, so Pepe's had to close for a few days, which gave customer Joe Schwab an idea over his non-Pepe's lunch.
People do giving trees, and I just thought, well, shoot, we could do a giving truck. I mean, this truck is somewhat iconic to this community.
So he told some friends.
We've actually had people dropping off money this morning since 8 a.m.
Who told some friends.
All the money on the truck right now is just walk-up donations today for the lunch rush that would have occurred.
Who grabbed some cash and some tape. Because in a small town, there are no strangers.
This is a tight community where people do know each other's names and do know their neighbors, and it's no surprise to me at all that there's this kind of outpouring for a core member of our community.
And when one person hurts, everyone feels it.
My hope is that the wife can take care of her husband and his issue while they're down.
The community can't fix the medical problem, but the mortgage, maybe, for a bit.
That's it. Just take this off them. They got enough on their plate.
And sometimes the plate of life looks pretty rotten, but not today. You could see it on the mom's face when she was tricked into visiting her truck. All those dollars, all those people, all that love. Who wouldn't need a tissue? Her English is not perfect, so she asked for help. Not that anyone had to guess at the feelings here.
But overall, she loves you guys and wouldn't want to be in any other community. You guys are literally the best.
Pepe's taco truck was closed for business today, but open for love. And it covered the truck. Yeah, Mike, we're in downtown Mosier on the main street. You can see a lot of emergency equipment still behind me as the work goes on into the night. A lot of people that I've talked to here in town deeply troubled by this derailment. The derailment of an oil train is something that they have feared for a long time. As you mentioned, the very latest word is that the oil has not reached the Columbia River, so that is a bit of good news. But overall, it's been a very bad day and night for people who worry about oil trains. Sky 8 captured the angry fireballs of exploding Bakken crude oil as it burned alongside the town of Mosier today. The derailment happened at 12:20. 11 cars off the tracks, at least 3 appeared to be burning. A few blocks away, Mary Lou Perry watched from her home.
We were on level 2 evacuation. I have my cat here. I was really freaked out. I didn't do anything all afternoon except pace around.
As the black column of smoke rose into the sky hour after hour, she and others here saw some of their worst fears coming true.
These unit trains with just the oil cars are really scary.
Mosier is a small town where everyone knows each other. That made it better for Herb Morris. He knew his friends had the problem somewhat under control. To him, it's not a big deal.
No, it isn't. I think they did the best job they could do, and we had plenty of help from everybody, and I thank them.
But his wife, Gail, is more conflicted.
They come through our town way too fast. The trains are way too long. And that oil going up and down the gorge is a scary thing, but if they do it safely, it has to be done.
But some here think it does not have to be done and should not be done.
It does make me furious.
Rhonda Starling also lives here and has lobbied against oil trains. This is why.
I know a lot of the volunteers, they all have families and they've all put their lives at risk today, and all of these small towns that aren't equipped to handle such a big thing, and it's pathetic, and I feel somewhat powerless.
It's unclear how much damage the ugly black smoke and the boiling fire did to the town or the environment. But for many here in Mosier and in the Columbia Gorge, seeing their worst fears confirmed is something they will not soon forget.
It was pretty freaky.
Sergeant Gooding is the first officer killed here in at least 50 years, maybe the first officer ever. It's hit so hard that the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office has taken over patrol of some parts of the city to give the locals a break. And all day long, folks have been coming here to this makeshift memorial to comfort each other. When there's no way to erase the ache of tragedy, the light of a single candle or a bouquet of flowers helps. The many who are heartsick in Seaside brought that and more to the memorial at the place where Sergeant Jason Gooding died.
It just really broke our hearts to find that this happened to a local policeman.
They walked by all day, pausing, trying to understand.
It's terrible when it happens anywhere, but when it's in your own community, and such a small community, I think you feel it that much deeper.
Feeling the impact.
Do you want to know how many hours I cried?
Sharing the sorrow, whether they knew the sergeant or not.
Absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating.
The district attorney said Sergeant Gooding died Friday night around 9:20, trying to arrest Philip Ferry, a 55-year-old with a life distinguished by crime. Sergeant Gooding recognized Ferry and knew he had a warrant for felony assault. Detectives worked through the night putting together the pieces, but the DA says the story is pretty straightforward. Ferry refused to show his hands when the sergeant and another officer stopped him. The other officer hit Ferry with a taser and he went down.
Although that seemed to incapacitate Mr. Ferry, it didn't do much more. He went down on the ground. Sergeant Gooding attempted to subdue him, and when that happened, Mr. Ferry produced a weapon and fired once.
The other officer fired back, hitting Ferry 3 times and killing him. Those on the scene immediately started CPR on Sergeant Gooding, but the shot was fatal. By morning, as city leaders gathered to announce the death, you could see the shock in so many faces. The sergeant was a volunteer sports coach, a caring police officer, an example to many. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young daughters, and a community that, for the moment, wonders how it will go on without him.
Step out of the vehicle.
It's a scene rarely witnessed in Oregon. FBI agents in armored personnel carriers treating nearly everyone leaving the newly restricted area as if they are dangerous, wanted felons.
And exit your pickup without any weapons in your hand.
But that is the new reality here in Southeast Oregon, where police have blocked the roads, making sure no reinforcements come to help the remaining protesters with manpower or supplies. They're also carefully screening anyone leaving so they know who was on the inside. At the same time, convoys of trucks carrying highway dividers and high-powered lights are moving into the restricted area, along with SUVs full of police in tactical gear. The local leader of the FBI said the protesters have had many chances to leave before now.
Let me be clear. It is the actions and choices of the armed occupiers of the refuge that has led us to where we are today.
Early this morning, I was able to reach an area near the refuge before the police roadblocks went up. I found the protesters had created their own roadblock on a bridge just blocks from the entrance. We also saw a caravan of 4 cars leaving around 2 in the morning. They held women who were at the refuge but decided it was time to get out. One man who said he's not going is Jason Patrick. He's emerging as the new protest leader, and his public comments are more extreme than Ammon Bundy or the others.
Now that there's no women and children here, the FBI can kill everybody.
I asked him if he believed that would actually happen.
What do you believe? When you say peaceful resolution and then you kill one of my friends, and you say you can safely leave and yet you've arrested somebody who's not even here, what do you believe anymore?
So that interview was done very early in the morning, probably 4 or 5 a.m., and it is possible that he and some of the others have had a change of heart. He told me that after the arrest last night, there was a separate group outside of the women who voted to actually pack up and leave as well. So it might be that we're seeing 2s and 3s start to peel off, or it could be the entire group has decided to leave. We're not sure on that. We're still going to be working to confirm that. Back to you guys.
We begin tonight with Pat Dooris live from the Malheur Wildlife Refuge to see how the verdict is affecting the community in Harney County. Pat?
Well, Joe, this is where it happened, and things are closed not because of the hour, but because of what happened, and they may not be open until next summer. The verdict surprised many, but not all in these parts, and did nothing to soothe the raw feelings about protests and land use here. The Malheur Refuge is limping back towards normal. Its friendly welcome is gone at the headquarters building, now behind gates with guards. And behind the scenes in town, there is concern.
It's as if somebody came and painted a big red target on the back of every federal employee.
Isabel Fleuro is married to a federal employee and furious over the verdict.
They have won. They now know that they are allowed to do that. And to me, that's very, very scary.
Ammon Bundy, his brother and supporters took over the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge January 2nd. They carried guns and posted security details and talked about giving the land controlled by the federal government back to private citizens. It's exactly the sort of message Chris Briles wanted to hear.
I think that we need to get our economy back going, put the land back into the economy. We get nothing out of the land that the feds claim that they own.
He's one of many in the Burns area pleased with the not guilty verdicts. At the county courthouse, Steve Grasty, the county executive, won't say what his reaction was to the verdict, at least not on camera, but he said there were many lessons learned that will be applied in the future.
They were allowed in this building to have a meeting with the sheriff with firearms. I bet you the next time they get arrested, whoever that might be, you, me, and whoever, they ought to be arrested on the spot. They should have been then.
Grasty will retire at the end of the year and is asking the community to work together after the verdict. But feelings remain tender over all that's happened in the last 10 months, and opinions are strong.
The government doesn't own the land. The state of Oregon and the American people own the land.
It's unclear if the two sides will ever find a common ground.
And so you have the Native Americans at Standing Rock who are being abused and you know, shot with rubber bullets because they don't have guns, but the Bundys, because they showed up with their guns and with their preposterous faux prayers every 2 minutes, they get away with it. It's infuriating, it's horrifying, horrifying.
You can see a lot of strong feelings on both sides. I also talked with several Native American folks around here who feel that there was prejudice in the jury's decision. They say it was a white jury letting white suspects get away with another crime against Native Americans. Back to you.